Let me know if you can hear me and if you've got any questions at all as we walk through the demonstration. You're welcome to ask questions if you have any. So this is our second session drawing this particular nose, and the reference is over at sharpenedartist.com/live streams if you would like to download it over there. The Fine Art Cafe Academy. Hey, Jan, good morning. How are you? Jan is joining us live over on YouTube Live with the Fine Art Cafe Academy. Awesome. Okay. Let me see here. So I've been using dark indigo in Polychromos, and I've also been using Caput Mortem. I think I've floated back and forth between Caput Mortem and Caput Mortem Violet in Polychromos. I'll be adding probably Herculaneum Red in the Luminance, one of the new Luminance colors. Awesome. Thanks, Jan. Yeah, my weekend was good. Let's see here. Hope yours was as well. It rained a lot yesterday. Which, we need those days. But the ground was so saturated. I think because of all the snow that had melted. Did it rain up there near the Great Lakes, Jan? Okay. Now I want this value right here to go into this area right here. I can't wait for your new Luminance pencils to come in either. Jan's just talking about that. Yeah, they're so fun. Great colors. So yeah, I want this dark shadow right here to taper very quickly into this area of the nostril. Yeah, it was pretty cloudy over here in Cincinnati yesterday as well, after it stopped raining. Melanie's joining us over there on YouTube Live as well. So, Melanie, you said you were on Facebook, but you couldn't make a comment on the video, I'm guessing. Oh no, wonder why that is. Glad you're over here. Okay. So, had somebody ask me in one of my courses recently about yeah, I'm glad there's options too, Melanie. Thanks for joining us. They were asking me about using dark colors first and why I do that, and they felt like that there's a lot of color pencil artists that don't do that they're using light colors first, and maybe that's true. I don't know for sure, but I feel like that is true, that a lot of color pencil artists use light colors first. There are some inherent benefits to using dark colors first and some cons as well, but let me talk about some of the benefits. I'm trying to apply my kneaded eraser right now so I can erase some of this because I want to feather back some of the pigment I put on. Some of the reasons why you would want to use dark colors first is because you're going to be able to see what you put down. You'll be able to see it easier. Some of the reasons not to, or some of the cons, is if you don't have a smooth application of the pencil, then it's going to show in your subsequent layers that you put on top. So you have to use good techniques and good pencil form. Strokes need to be even in application. And I think that because of that, it promotes good habits. It promotes good form, and you're thinking more about what you're doing when you're applying the strokes to the paper. So, hey, good morning, Oksana. How are you? Oksana is also over there on YouTube Live. Wonder what's going on Facebook then. If Melanie's saying she couldn't comment, I want to check it out, see what's going on, see if anyone's able to. So there's I don't see any comments, I guess, but there are people watching, so I don't know. Don't know what's happening. Technology. Ugh. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it's so frustrating. Right? Oh, thanks, Oksana. Talking about the podcast. So, Oksana, are you talking about how to form your own opinion, that podcast episode, or are you talking about the one that got released today with Lisa Ann Watkins, the interview with her? Just curious. So if you guys are over on Facebook, if anyone's over on Facebook and you're able to comment, go ahead and say something. If you don't mind, let me know if the commenting option is working. That would be great. It's just so odd if it isn't. I don't know what to think about that. Now, as I start to get closer to the highlight area over here on the nose, then what will happen is I can still feather that back, and I'll just use the kneaded eraser again, and I've still got a little bit of that pigment on there, which is a good thing. That's what I want, because I don't want to take a whole lot off. I just want to sort of feather that back. Oh, Harry, thanks for joining us. So Harry is over on Facebook, so you are able to comment. That's good. I was just curious about that. And awesome. So Harry says he is he's a member of Lisa Ann Watkins over on Patreon. So very cool. I'm sure she does an incredible job over there. So thanks for sharing that, Harry. Okay, let's see. I'm going to get, often there's a darker value, or it appears to be a darker value right in here on the nose, depending on the angle, your position to that area right above the flare of the nostril. So it's not always going to be apparent, but sometimes it is a little bit darker. Now, it may or may not be in this case. I'm not sure. I could draw it as though it is not darker, and it would be just fine because I've got a dark recessed area down here. So as this moves up towards the light, it would make sense to make this part lighter. So I think that's probably what I will do. If it is darker, it's barely darker. It might be just the same value right out here as it is right over here. Yeah, Oksana, that's a good point. Noses are kind of tough, I feel like, only because some of the shape of a nose is very subtle. And if we depict the areas that are subtle in such a way that we don't notice what they're doing, like the side plane of the nose, for example, then you can create something that is hard to wrap your head around. It's hard to define, for the viewer to even enjoy and notice. Nose is so important only because it's smack dab in the middle. It's just such a prominent feature because it's right there in the middle of the face. And so you've got to pay attention to it and do something with it, right? It would be a difficult thing to leave out, right? I think it's easy for a nose to start to look too much like a cookie cutter type of nose, too much like just an afterthought or something that is not very detailed. And that's always my fear, is that, I'm not going to actually depict this in the way that it should be rendered, and that it's not going to look like this individual nose that I'm drawing, and afraid it's going to look like the last 50 noses that I drew or something like that. And so that's my concern, is that I'm going to start using a cookie cutter process. And so I don't want to do that. I always want to observe very carefully, pay attention to the differences in this particular nose that I'm drawing. I want this dark value, this middle value, really to go up the side plane of the nose, and but I've got to darken everything else up enough down here first in order for that to make sense. So I want to come back in here kind of carefully and remove a little bit of this in some areas. Okay. There we go. So I want to look for areas that might be standing out as being a little bit too dark. Sometimes that happens in colored pencil. You can create an even application of your pencil layers, but then if you go back in there and look for areas that are collecting too much, then you can remove those areas and it'll look a lot better. It'll make everything a little easier to control once you put color up on top. All right, if I can press that down. Yeah, Jan, the challenge for March is coming out today. And you're right, it is a nose. It's not this nose, but it will be a nose. Okay. Now this will go back just a little bit more right here. And right up there. Okay. Now I'm got enough in there. And I want to get a little more value right there. Now I'm seeing a pretty prominent edge right here. I don't want to overdo anything like that, but I do want to add a little bit of this darker value in here. Even though it's a dark value, and I'm calling it a dark value, it's really a middle value when it's applied to the paper. Now up at the top, I'm going to have much darker value up here next to where the eye is. But I don't really need to worry about that too much right now, or at all, really, if I'm just depicting this nose and we're mostly concerned about the nose. But it is something to think about. I'm going to add a little bit of value over here on this other side. There we go. Okay. So right up here, we've got a little bit of a lighter value. So that means that I can darken up the values around that area to make that stand out as a darker value. I'm anxious to use that Herculaneum red on here, but I don't want to try to rush this and and stop paying attention to little nuances like that area right there that I was just talking about. Okay. Okay, that area is a little bit darker all the way up here. Okay. Actually, I think what I want to do is put a little bit more in here first. So, Oksana, yes, I will be adding more colors. Right now, I'm just trying to work on the values and make sure that they're as smooth as possible before I add color on top. I thought about adding some solvent and moving this around a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to add the values instead and with the pencils only. And then I'll come back in there with more color on top. That eraser takes off a lot, so I have to be careful how much I'm taking off. Just by tapping it, it just removes a lot. So I'm just barely skimming the surface on what we're doing here. Oh, thank you, Oksana. Yeah, I like to work in a layer of values first, if that's possible. Depending on what your goals are and what the surface is. But if you're able to do that and just work on it like a grisaille method, then it just simplifies the entire process for me, and I can go on top with color later on. Okay. Now that I have enough pigment in here, now I can lengthen the pencil strokes over here even to the top of the nose, on the length of the nose. Otherwise, if I had done that earlier, it would have started to look a little odd, because I didn't have enough value everywhere. Got a little bit of that blue I want to get rid of right in there. There we go. Okay, let's take a look. Now this may not be removed as easily if I were using luminance. Oh, thanks, Jan. Appreciate it. Yeah, like I was saying, though, if you're using luminance or another wax-based pencil in this area, then it may be more difficult to remove some of that pigment. But with polychromos, it's so loose and powdery, especially in the beginning. If I can use the term like powdery for colored pencil, I don't know if that's allowed, but anyway, I just did. But you're able to remove a lot if you need to, and it's part of the technique to be able to get a soft feathered edge in certain areas like this. Okay. I may use a brush, dry brush in here as well. Sometimes that helps a little bit. But I think we're okay at the moment. Thanks, Jan. Okay. Let's move that down. Just using a dry brush. This helps to spread that out just a little bit. And with a dry brush, I can still come back in there and erase anything that I need to. And I'm not pressing very hard. So Oksana is asking what brand of OMS I prefer to use, and I like Gamsol by Gamblin is the one that I like, or Gamasol if you prefer that pronunciation. But it, I've got a bunch of it, so I've been just using it for years. They all perform pretty similar, but that's the one that when I was testing it, I found it to perform really well. I like the company. I think it's a good company, and so that's just the one I stuck with. Yes, that's exactly it, Jan. It is a fix-it brush, very stiff bristled brush. Yes, definitely. I agree. Um, with what you're saying there, Oksana, that it's odorless and you like that quality. I do too. It's just so nice. Okay, I made. Let's see here. Sharpen this up. Made a little bit of a mess for myself there. Not really a mess, but when I used that brush, it did put some clumps of darker value in a couple of places. Um, but that's what happens when you're using a new surface. This is a new surface to me. I've not used this surface before. So you kind of just figure it out as you go. Um, I do have a scrap sheet of paper over here. So if I try to do anything very adventurous, I would probably use that scrap sheet of paper first. But I mean, this wasn't too daring. I kind of half expected what the result would be, and so that's not a big deal. I'll come back over here, push this back just a little bit more. Okay, so I think I've got enough of a stained area up there, and push that kneaded eraser down just a little bit more, and come back in here and remove more of what I put down. So I don't know if there's others that are around this area. I mean, arguably, well, Jan is from around this area. She's only a couple few hours away or something like that. But Oksana could arguably be considered around this area. I mean, she's about 10 hours away or something like that. But we've got um, another brood of cicadas coming this year. And I like that. I know a lot of people get frustrated with it, but I think it's just so fun because, I mean, they are loud and everything, but it's just such a rare event. And it's just fun when it happens ever so often. I mean, depending on this is going to be a huge brood of cicadas, very, very large. And they're going to be around for I can't remember 4 to 6 weeks or something like that, and then they're going to be gone. And I don't remember if this is like the 7-year one or 14 or something. I think it might be 7, something like that. So let's see. Jan is asking, do you usually start with polychromos to lay in the darker values instead of wax base? I often do, yes. Start with polychromos. Uh, it's not something that I often, it's not something that I just think has to be done that way. Sometimes I'll use luminance, but most of the time I'm using polychromos and I'm using dark indigo by polychromos. Um, it's a nice one to start with, nice base dark value to start with in portraits. Okay. There a little more of that value right in here. Oksana, yeah, I was just talking about the insects, the cicadas that will be coming this summer. Few months, something like that. 2 or 3 months. I don't know. Um, oh yeah, I don't know, Jan, if you're going to have them as much as what we have. Yeah, this is going to be one of the largest, from what I understand, this year. So, just kind of neat. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is in May. I ate one before, one time in the past. There was a display, and they had some chocolate covered ones, so I thought I'd try it. Wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. Not something I'd eat every day, though. I've heard of people putting them on pizza before. I don't know how well I would like that, but oh well. Okay, let's see. If I don't prepare this bottom layer and get it at least reasonably smooth, then I'll have problems later on. It's like trying to put the wallpaper up before the 2x4s and the drywall is in place. So I don't want to add color too quickly. I see people make that mistake a lot, and then they wonder why it's not smooth after they add color. And that's the reason. All right. Let me sharpen this up. I still see a little bit right there. There we go. So I'm going to use my Herculaneum red, and I could use a brighter red, and that would be fine. But I can also use this red. This is a very muted down flesh tone red. And I'll come back with a brighter red after I put this down. So I want to focus on that area that's right next to where the shadow and the middle values start to begin, where they are very close to the highlight. And so we're not going to see a huge change in color or in value. I'm using light pressure. And this is a mid value as well. So I will, push that back into more of the darker values that I have on here already. But I don't want to do that yet. I want to add this color right next to the highlights. Now, if you find that you missed a spot, like I did right here, you can come back in there, correct your area right in there, add a little bit of a darker value, because I'm starting to notice now that this color on top is taking on that darker value. Then come back in there. There we go. You should start to notice, if you're drawing this with me, let me just zoom in just a little bit. Maybe you can see this. But you should start to notice a little bit of this topical layer here, this top layer of pencil blending with the polychromos layer underneath, using this wax-based pencil. There's something nice that happens on the surface now where it just starts blending it all together, and it makes for a very, very nice surface. Now, we're not all the way there yet. We're still trying to push these two together. But we are building up like this little film on top. And then when you get that layer completed, then you can go on top of that with more layers of wax-based pencils. And it just starts gliding on there very nicely. So I am going to push this over into the highlight area, so that I make sure I have a soft, subtle transition in gradation from the highlight into the mid values here. Just work my way all the way up the nose and then back down again. Yeah, I think so too, Oksana. Just talking about how this color is complementing the colors underneath. Yeah, we're still working within a very muted range at the moment, but we won't the entire time. I mean, we'll get these values and colors established, and then we'll come back in there with some brighter ones. Now, you could work in either direction, right? I mean, you could work in some very bright tones first, and often I do that after putting in the dark values in the very beginning. Then I'll come back in with brighter tones and then mute those back down if needed. But, there's no rule that says I have to do it that way. So this is a fun way to work as well, is to just use these muted down tones as you work your way up to the final local color that you're going to be using. Now I'm noticing some other areas here that need some help. Need a little bit of darker value right in there. Okay. Come back in here and tap just a little bit in these areas. Just to create a smoother transition. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, now I can use this color way out here as well. Right here on the edge. Now I don't want to lose where that cast shadow is. Okay, let's get rid of this right there. Wrong pencil. There we go. That happens to me once in a while. I'm sure it does to some of you guys where you're just moving along and working between two, maybe three pencils sometimes. And then you accidentally pick up the wrong one. And you figure it out pretty quickly, but when you don't figure it out quickly, then it's a problem, right? Okay, let's go all the way up here. Come back down. Jen, I don't know if I'd call it happy. Accident, maybe. Sometimes it works out. Other times it's just an accident. I think that's it's really funny actually. I mean, when we think about those Bob Ross's little statements that he would make. There wasn't anything really unplanned about what he would do. He really had it all thought out. But it was good showmanship. Okay. Can't wait to get some red in here. And some pinks. It's going to be nice. All right. Now, let me take a look. All right. Let's see which color is this? Anthacrydone Carmine. So luminance 580. We'll see how much time we have to put some of this in here. Now it's if you used it before, if you've used this color, then you understand this, that it doesn't lay down as bright as what you might think just by looking at the color of the pigment itself. So if you put it down, a lot of times what I like to do is use some type of intensifier, some other color to help it. Yeah, Jan's asking if this is one of the new colors. I'm pretty sure it is. If I remember correctly, I think it is 580. Here it is. If you can see it. Not sure, but that color, actually, I'm going to look at my stream really quick. Looks like my screen is actually coloring things just a little bit. Might need to mess around with my settings in OBS, make that look a little more representational to what it really is, in other words. Yeah, that looks a little drab. Not quite. I want to hold that up and look at my look at my stream. Yeah, that is really, it nearly looks brown from what I can tell. And that color is anything but brown. So let's see if I can fix that for you guys. We can probably do this while we're live. I hope so. Oh yeah, we didn't realize we didn't have there's a color correction filter that I thought I had on there. I guess I did not. Let's see what we can do here real quick. Okay, let me try this. See what we can do live here. Okay. That's looking a little more like reality. There we go. All right, nothing like catching it at the last minute here. Now let's take a look at that color. That looks a little better. Looks a little bit more like what I'm seeing in reality. Okay. Hey, Brenda Matson. Thanks for joining us. She's over on Facebook Live. Awesome. Brenda is working on a brand new portrait. She is putting out work like at an accelerated pace. It's just so exciting to see that. Let's see. Is that looking more red? I think it is. Yeah, I just looked up and I was like, wow, it's looking like I'm working in all these earth brown tones. And I'm not doing that. So, I mean, they are a little muted, but not near what I was seeing on the screen there. Okay. Once I put this down, like I was saying, then I can use some pinks and some other nice flesh tones that are more on that warm side. And we should be able to get a better representation of what we're trying to depict here. I am noticing that there is a little bit of a buildup happening right here on the surface, right in this area where I've had that dark indigo down as one of my initial layers. And being new to this surface, I'm starting to notice some of the buildup there is indicating to me that we're not going to have very many more layers that we could put down in this area, which is fine. We're not pressing very hard though, so we do have that option of pressing even harder to get more of this to adhere to the surface. So that's an option that we will use if we need to. Yeah, it's Oksana, you're asking, is it not accepting very many layers? Yeah, it's not accepting a whole lot of layers. And it depends on which Brenda, you're asking which surface. So I'm using a crescent board. See if I can show that really quick here. Here's the board. Let me zoom back out. I think we talked about it last week, but I want to show it for those of you that may be new to the stream this week. This is an illustration board that I just bought off of Blick, I think. 300 series, I guess. Number 300 illustration board is what it says. And so it's a real thick, it comes with, there's 3 in here. But I mean, I like them. But they're different, and like every surface is, right? But it's starting to run out of tooth just a little bit, which is fine. You start figuring out what to do, modify the approach and start getting closer to your local color a little bit quicker, right? Start thinking about those final hues when you do that. I zoomed way out, didn't I? Let me go back in for you. Here we go. Oh, let me go back out a second since Brenda's here. Don't know if you noticed this, Brenda. I have got Brenda gave me this idea to put the sand block over here. I started doing that. It's a great idea. right over there by my board. So I love that. Okay. So I just want to add this red hue everywhere and build this up pretty slowly. Now, in certain areas, I may want more of this red color than in others, you know. Yeah, it does work great, Brenda. I love that idea. I don't know why I never thought of that. Makes so much sense. I've always been just hunting around for it every time I need it. Now I'm using it more often, which, I should be anyway. I should be trying to save pencil lead instead of grinding it down the mouth of the sharpener, right? Making donations to landfills. But yeah, it just helps to sharpen it very quickly in between sharpenings. I love that. Okay, that's nice. That is starting to accept some more layers right there on top. So I am liking that, you know. I was wondering if it was going to be able to do that, and it is. So that's good. Now, I don't want to get carried away right there, but I feel like doing that because it's just starting to feel so good right there. Those of you that work in the medium, you know what I'm talking about. It just starts accepting the colored pencil right on top. Yeah, so Brenda, I haven't noticed a whole lot of dust yet, but I could see that, yeah. We just started using it that way, so. Okay. So we are able to shift this dark value, all these dark values over to more of a mid-range area on the edges of where the dark values are. So we've got a cast shadow, and on the edge of the cast shadow, I want a little bit of a softer edge than what I often see in I don't know, academic works, whatever you want to call them. You know, I'll often see works that just have a hard edge. So what I'm talking about is like you just made a line around the outside of the cast shadow, that edge. And there's something about doing that that signals to the viewer that there's nothing really to examine here. There's nothing really to look at here. There's just this hard edge, and I don't really see that a whole lot in real life. I don't think. I mean, this is my perception, obviously, but I think there's a little bit more to enjoy when we can create some of these boundaries as a little softer and just a little more of a diffused edge going on there. And so that's what I try to do most of the time. Now, where we do want hard edges are areas where the particular object ends abruptly. So if it ends abruptly, like down here, and that's where I do want a very hard edge, right? Okay. So I think I've got that red in most of the places. So this is the problem whenever you're using a value that is very, very close and a color that's close to whatever you already have down. Sometimes you're not able to see exactly where you put everything down if you're not methodical in the application. And if you kind of go over it haphazardly like I just did, then you've got a problem on your hand, or you can have a problem where you're wondering, okay, did I get it everywhere? And I distract myself by talking to and by looking at it and things like that, rather than thinking about, okay, methodically, I'm going to go through this and work my way down or way up or over or whatever. All right, so now I need to use the eraser a little bit again. Let's see. Few areas here. Let's see. There we go. Look at it over here on the screen. I can see it so much easier over there sometimes. That's looking fine. All right. Let's make sure I don't need to remove anything else. Okay, so by way of reminder, I did use Polychromos, Dark Indigo, and Caput Mortem on the bottom, and then the Herculeum Red in Luminance on top, and then now I'm using this red here. I think it's 580, so anthracnone, I think, carmine. I think that's it. I can barely see that. All right, so let me take a look. Okay, that's plenty dark enough. Now what I could do is soften that edge just a little bit more, especially right over here. Soften some of this. Okay, and then if I'm using the kneaded eraser, it doesn't always erase that in an even manner. So the next thing I want to do is then take a look at it and see if there's areas that I need to be a little more deliberate with and try to remove on their own. It's good enough, I think, for the moment. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I do want to use a pink. And I don't know which pink yet. Let me look. I want something pretty bright. So I've got salmon in polychromos. I've got rose carmine. And I've got Pink Matter Lake. And I think what I'll do, I think I'll use Pink Carmine, actually. Okay, got that sharpened up. So I want to look for some of these areas that are right next to where my form shadows on the shape of this nose begin. And just add a small layer of this. And then I want it to spread out just a little bit and lighten up the application of it where I get close to my highlight. And that will give me just enough of this very bright color to depict just that edge. I like the starburst kind of edge of where the highlights are, where we're moving from a highlight into the shadow. Hope that makes sense. Okay. See right over here on the nostril, that's what's happening over here, even though it's kind of hard to tell sometimes that, we can use a brighter color in some of the shadows, even though, most of the time we're thinking, oh, I'm going to use purple or blue. We can use a brighter color. And I think it still can create a very convincing shadow that has, a form edge that goes in and out. And so we're still depicting something that is very warm. Okay, now with this part of this upper portion, this top area of where that nostril is, I can use this very bright color, and it'll help to blend that together. Oh my, I got to tell you, this is feeling so good though. Let me see what that's looking like. See that? Still don't have that color right, because that looks nearly like an orange red, and that is not an orange red. And this is a problem with having to go through a software layer like OBS. There's only so much that I can do with the colors and the color correction. I'll have to get it out and fool around with it and play with it in my spare time, figure out what is going to make that actually look more like what I'm seeing here. I might have to do some of it on the camera itself, just to get that looking a little more like what I'm seeing in reality here. I don't know. Does that look like that to you guys? Does it look like an orange red? And for those of you that work in the medium, you know what rose carmine looks like. So let me know if that's looking like an orange red or if it looks like a pink, like orange carmine. I'd be interested in knowing what it's looking like on the screen for you. Okay. I want to put a little bit of that next to. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Melanie. Melanie told me, yeah, it looks like an orange red over there on YouTube Live. So, yeah, that's not what it looks like. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. Let's try one more time here. See if we can figure that out real quick. See what other filter we can put in there. Ah, great. Thanks, Brenda. Brenda's over on Facebook, so that helps also. So at least there's some consistency between everything. Let's see. So we've got color key, chroma key, color correction, chroma key. Let me try this. Okay. Let me try something here. I'm going to stick this up here so I can see it. See what we come up with here. Try a chroma key. That's terrible. Remove that. Okay. Try a hue shift here. There we go. That's getting better. Hue. And see the surface that we're working on is a warm white. So it is sort of a yellowish tint, kind of like ivory and polychromos. How's that look? That looks more like a pink to me. That's a little brighter, I think, than probably what we've got. So let me turn down the gamma. That's looking a little bit better, I think. Okay, we're going to go with that. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that help there. Push us back over. Okay. It's a little closer anyway. Yeah, it might be a little too bright now. I think it might be. Yeah, I'll have to play around with it later. I've got Facebook open. Let me take a look. Yeah, that nearly looks like fluorescent or something. Don't really want it that bright. It's such an odd thing to do this, like in in real time on the fly like this, rather than using the color correction options that you have in post when you're recording videos. It's so different, and there's not as many options when you're doing it through OBS, which is a software that I'm using. Let's try this. See what that looks like. I'll get my purple color up here too, so we can make a better comparison there. Turn down that contrast just a little bit. Yeah, that actually, here's Caput Mortem. That actually might be a little closer than to what I'm actually looking at. Yeah, there we go. Okay. It's perfect now. Just kidding. It's not perfect. Oh, good. Thanks, Oksana. Appreciate it. Okay, let's get back over here. Oksana, I'm so glad that you're going to enter the international exhibition for the CPSA. And I hope a lot of you guys are going to. That'll be really cool if you do. All right. Brenda did. If Brenda's still out here, Brenda did last year and got accepted. And Brenda got accepted into the Explore This past year. So it's so exciting. And like you were mentioning earlier, Oksana, there's plenty of time to even think of an idea and a piece to work on right now. You've got time to work on it and enter it. Yeah, you don't need to give up on it. There's nothing to be scared of. If you're scared of not being accepted, then just remember that happens to everyone. Yes, I know. I wanted that to be live so bad. It is unfortunate for those that were going to be attending live. I feel like I got to keep both you, everyone in the know here on what's being talked about, because some of you are on Facebook, some of you are on YouTube. But yeah, Brenda was just talking about how that it's unfortunate for those that are we're going to be attending live. This is the part of the drawing process that I just really start to love. I start to love that section of the process, this layer of the process where you can get the pencil to start gliding on top of other subsequent layers, and there's just something great that starts to happen when you do that. It starts to glide on there very, very well. And there, once in a while you'll have a paper that doesn't allow that very much, or it's short-lived. You're out of that layering process very quickly where it's applying in that way. So so Jan, you're asking if the competition is strictly colored pencil. So the international exhibition that happens, the annual one that happens one time a year, obviously, is colored pencil. It's strictly colored pencil. The Explore This is colored pencil with other mediums used with it. So I would go over to cpsa.org and check out the prospectus, and it will outline and define everything that's required in the pieces that you want to submit. Okay, just go to the menu item. I think it's called competitions or something like that, or exhibition or something like that. You'll probably be able to find it pretty easily. Okay. Start moving this down. Awesome. Good deal, Jan. Yeah. I would encourage anyone to enter the competitions if it's something that you would like to do. It's a lot of fun to be a part of. Okay, so I need a darker red right up under there. So I'm going to use Carmine Lake in the new Luminance line. It's a very, very dark red. So I'm going to be pretty judicious about where I use it and how much. And then go over the top of it with other colors. So right up under here where I had my indigo and polychromos, I can layer this on top. There we go. Okay. So I'm coming back around and using a dark value again inside the shadows. So we weren't done with those shadows. We added a dark value at the beginning, but there reaches a point where it's time, after you've got value everywhere else, to come back to your darkest values and start adding more shadows in there. can add this dark value on top over here just a little bit. Now it's starting to pick up some of the unevenness. Harry's asking if I'm touching the paper in one direction, going in one direction with my stroke, or in both directions. Now, a lot of times I'm going in both today, but a lot of times I don't do that. I'll just go in one direction. But for speed and just to get more on the paper and get through a live tutorial like this, a live demonstration, then I'm going to, try to pull out the stops and use whatever I can to speed up the process a little bit. But I mean, right in here, right now, I'm using one direction, and a lot of times I am using one direction because it's a force of habit. I do that most of the time anyway. And when I'm using a dark color like this, and I want to be a little more measured and judicious about its application, then I'm going to use one direction a lot of times. Okay. That's probably enough of that dark value there. All right. I'm going to add a little bit of my light flesh 10%. I think that's going to be a nice blend of colors right there together. Right here on this edge especially. There we go. Oh, hey, Shiny is joining us over there on Facebook Live. How are you? I'm doing well. Thank you. Okay. Now, so to answer your question, Harry, right now I'm scrubbing. I'm going back and forth 2 directions with this pencil. Okay. Sharpen that up again. Putting a little more down than probably, it's a little darker value right in here, especially than what I really want. And that's okay for right now. I'll remove it probably in a little bit here. If we get to that today, I didn't realize we've been going this long. It's hard to stop once you start. I know you guys know what that's like. I just want to add a little bit more of this flesh colored here. Now, sometimes with polychromos especially, your wax-based pencils will pick up some of that powdery pigment underneath, and it will deposit it at the top of your stroke. So Shiny's asking if I put up a notification that I'm starting a live stream anywhere. No, so they're every. I'll just tell you right now, they're every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll be out here again next week, same time, same place. For a while, I don't see me stopping this. I think I'm just going to keep doing this. It's a lot of fun, and we'll just work on whatever's next. Yeah, good deal. And the replays will be out here too if you guys if you can't join, at the time that we're doing it live. Add a little bit of this down here. And we may call it a morning here, even though we've got some more things to work on up there. And to push some of that back. Actually, let me look at it, make sure that I'm not going to be too annoyed once I see it as a thumbnail, a little smaller image there. Oh, that tip got all dirty. Let me sharpen that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I need to push some of that back just a little bit. Let's see what we can do with a kneaded eraser here. Sometimes it's a bit scary when you figure out what all can be removed at this point, because you find out, oh, much of what I put down can be removed. Sometimes it's scary because you find out, oh, I can't remove anything. But on this surface, I think we can remove quite a bit. And if it's stubborn, if it's not coming off, we can use some more drastic measures. But I think for right now, we should be all right. Yeah. Come back in here. I want to use this sweeping motion and push some of that pigment from over here in the mid-range into this area a little bit. Okay, I'm going to darken up a little bit more. I'll use this red again that I was using earlier. Anthracnone Carmine, I think, is the name of this one. So we'll make sure that that dark shadow over here at least has this very warm look to it, that the particular local value is more warm than it is anything else. Okay, come back up here. Use this. What is it? Dark Flash, is that right? Dark Flash 10%, yeah. And just a little bit more right there. The overall tint that I want, the overall hue and color, when I look at it, I want it to be red, a pink. So the value over here needs to match, and color hue needs to match what I've got in the shadows, right? But how I get there, that's not always going to be the same, right? That won't always be the same process, and usually it isn't, because there's other influences over in the shadow than there is in a highlight area. But it still needs to be very dark in the shadow. But I want it to look very much like the same hue, right? I mean, I'd be losing the whole objective if I didn't do that, right? Oh, thanks, Oksana. Appreciate it. Okay, so right up here. Again, by way of reminder, if you want to follow along and draw this particular nose yourself, you can go over to sharpenedartist.com/live streams, or it's under one of the menus. I think it's under resources or learning or something like that. And you can download it yourself. We're about to release the new challenges today inside Member Circle over there in Monthly Sharpener as well. Okay, let me push that back. Somebody tell me to stop. It's getting to that point where I need to stop. I'm cutting into some other time here that I've got some things I got to get done, but I don't want to stop. Okay, let me do this and then I'll be done. Look at that bottom edge really quick. I don't want that to be, that's got to go up a little bit. Cut in here a little bit quicker right there in that shape. And right here. Oh, thanks, Jan. Appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are out here keeping me company this morning. It's so fun. Okay, we will have to work on that shadow under there more when we get back. Now I'm pressing pretty hard right now because not because I need to, but because I'm getting impatient right there. And I'm thinking, okay, wrap it up. So I need to stop. That's not a good habit to get into. Start pushing things hard just for the sake of pushing it hard. And I just got to do that one more time right there. I want a darker value there. I'm trying to make a lighter value pencil darker by pressing it harder. That's what happens in our mind sometimes. So I rail against that all the time. So I don't need to do it myself. If I'm talking about not doing it and then I'm doing it, then what's that make me? Hypocrite. Okay. Let me push this in here. We're close to the actual color though that we want. So, I'm not unhappy then with that result. We've got more layers though we've got to get to up here. And then I do want to sort of brush all this together with probably a polychromos pencil so that we have a smoother application of that topical surface layer of the pencils before we're done, right? So, and then we'll come back in there with Herculaneum red. I almost started doing that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put the pencils down. All right, guys. Thanks for joining today. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. And we will be out here doing this again next week, working on this nose. There may be other times, though, before Monday morning next week that I'll come out here. And I want to start streaming from Instagram also. Just a matter of, there's a different software system I have to use for that. So we'll get that figured out. But otherwise, if I don't talk to you again or see you again, then I will see you next week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, guys. Thanks and have a great day. Bye-bye.